I had pretty low expectations going to see Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves. I hadn't even seen a full-length trailer for this movie. The only reason I saw it is because I had a friend who kept saying, "Dude, we have to see Dungeons & Dragons." And I was just like, yeah, sure, why not? I didn't even know Hugh Grant was in this movie until I walked in the theater and saw a poster on the wall. I thought Dungeons & Dragons Honor Among Thieves was fantastic. I loved this movie. I will buy another full-price ticket to see this again in theaters, and I would probably volunteer to pay for a friend's ticket as well. I probably shouldn't oversell it. It's not the best movie of all time or the best film I've seen in years. It's just that I was so utterly shocked by how fun it was. I have never played the Dungeons & Dragons game before. I observed some friends playing a game one time and I was kind of weirded out by it, so I imagine there are a ton of references that I wouldn't have appreciated. The basic spoiler-free premise is that Chris Pine is a thief whose wife is murdered and he is trying to steal an ancient relic that can bring her back from the dead. Chris Pine's co-conspirator, played by Hugh Grant, betrays Chris Pine and takes his daughter to raise her as his own in a big castle full of treasure. And now Chris Pine needs to put together a ragtag team of mercenaries, sorcerers, paladins, and druids, played by Michelle Rodriguez, Justice Smith, Sophia Lillis, and Renee Jean Page, to break into the castle, steal the loot, and rescue his daughter. What did I like about Dungeons & Dragons? The first thing that struck me was the production values. While the computer effects aren't mind-blowing, they're decent, they get the job done. The set design, costumes, makeup, and animatronics are top-notch. I actually watched the trailer for the first time after I saw the movie, and the trailer definitely does not do this movie justice. This movie isn't nearly as cheap as the trailer makes it seem. It cost nearly $150 million to make, and it's cool to see a big studio like Paramount take a risk on such a niche genre film. Usually you would expect a studio to provide just a bare bones budget, with the hopes of getting just enough of the hardcore fans' butts in the seats to make a small profit, but no, they went out of their way to make something that could appeal to mainstream audiences. The second most striking thing was the humor. I was laughing out loud throughout the film. Now there's a fine line between making fun of a genre and having fun with a genre. When Rian Johnson made The Last Jedi, yeah, I'm still talking about The Last Jedi, so it felt like he was making fun of Star Wars and not having fun with Star Wars. In Dungeons & Dragons, the writers and directors felt like they were having fun with the fantasy genre. It doesn't take itself seriously at all, but at the same time it has respect for the fans who have a deep love for this kind of stuff. It has very witty dialogue, but also a lot of good physical humor. I just thought it was so funny how they had a lot of actors walking around with big animatronic costumes. Like there's a scene where we are at a parole hearing and the parole board is sitting at a table and the camera is zoomed in on the face of the human guy in charge. And while he's talking, the camera slowly zooms out and you see sitting next to him on this parole board is this guy in this huge animatronic dragon costume wearing tiny spectacles and robes and writing with a quill pen, and everyone is just acting like it's totally normal, and it's hilarious. This may seem like a small thing, but I'm also glad there's no big battle between two armies at the end of the movie. Since the early 2000s, it feels like every single fantasy movie has to have a big battle at the end just for the heck of it. Like movies that have no reason needing an epic battle will have their side characters go off and fight endless hordes of drones while our main characters go off to stop the actual threat. Movies like The Mummy Returns, Dracula Untold, Oz the Great and Powerful, Alice in Wonderland, and even The Dark Knight Rises all had to have hundreds or thousands of people charging at each other and beating the crap out of each other. I'm not saying there is no action or no fights in Dungeons & Dragons, but they ignore that silly fantasy trope of having to have a big battle at the end, and they keep it pretty small scale. There's also no doomsday plot. Well, there is, it's kind of in the background and it's secondary, but I don't know. I thought it was unique how they kind of treated this movie more like a heist movie than your traditional fantasy action adventure. The directors and writers are John Francis Daley, the psychologist from the TV show Bones, and Jonathan Goldstein, and Michael Gillio has a writing credit as well. You can tell these guys are fans and really care about the source material, but most importantly, they are also artists who care about their craft. There was real thought and effort put into this one. Meticulously crafted jokes, great choreography, fun action set pieces, everything you could want. I don't have much to complain about in this movie. I do have one very big problem with the film, though. The biggest problem by far is Chris Pine's character. He's funny, he's charming, but he's completely useless. Everyone on the team has a purpose and a special ability. Chris Pine has no such ability. His special ability is that he can make plans, and that's it. It's not even established that he's a good thief, and yet for some reason he's in charge and giving everyone orders. They even bring it up in the film where Sophia says to him, "So why are you a part of this team?" And he says, "Well, I make the plan." And she responds, "Well, you made the plan already, so why do we still need you?" And then he responds, "Well, because if the plan fails, then I'm there to make a new plan." And she says, "So you make plans that fail?" It's supposed to be funny, but you would expect there to be a character arc there. Like, I don't know, maybe he gets made fun of for having no abilities throughout the movie, and then he gets a moment to shine? Something like that. The only thing unique about him is he carries some kind of mandolin instrument. I forget what it's called. And I was thinking that would play into the plot somehow. Like, after everyone makes fun of him for being useless, they are attacked by a dragon and he plays the mandolin and it makes the dragon fall asleep. I don't know, something like that. Sophia Lillis is also a really underwritten character. She has some cool action scenes because she's a druid who is a shapeshifter, but she just kind of stands in the background for most of the movie and says nothing remotely of interest. Other than that, I don't have any real problems. I just have little nitpicking complaints. You know, one or two scenes went on for too long. I highly recommend Dungeons & Dragons. It looks like the Super Mario Brothers movie is getting bad reviews, which shouldn't be a surprise because they got Illumination Entertainment to make that movie. Gosh, I don't like that studio. So go see this instead and give Paramount a reason to make a sequel. It's a very light PG-13. There's no adult material other than some violence and some scary images.